Fundamental elements of any great RPG include the ability to equip useful items, converse with people, and use a variety of combat skills, all of which cats are unable to do. But what if the only heroes that could save the world were our four-legged friends? Can you beat Baldur's Gate 3 as a cat? Because cats are not an option in the character creation screen, the closest thing we can do is to select the druid class and use only its cat forms, which until level 6, the cat is the weakest druid form you can possibly use. My only rule for this challenge is that whenever possible, I must remain in a cat form. The only exceptions to this include cutscenes, which automatically force you into human form, situations where damage knocked me out of my cat form, all I can do then is shift back in, and whenever I'm in my camp so that I can still use those functions. If you don't like the rules, leave a mean comment below and I promise I'll read it. When creating Felix, the goal was to make him look like a cat. Instead, it ended up being the face that only a mother could love, but still better than Hollywood's renditions. And since I'll be a cat, we hopefully don't need to see it very often. You can't actually start at level 1 as a cat, so I speedran the prologue to reach level 2 and began the game on the beach with the cat form unlocked, since this is where the game really begins anyways. Unable to speak with Shadowheart and clearly too weak to battle brain cats, I took the scenic route and started mountain climbing, where I quickly learned that cats can only jump 3 feet high in this universe. A short trip to camp for some boxes solved that problem, and in the wreckage of the Nautiloid ship, I found the first enemy who matched my power level, a severely injured mind flayer who couldn't even fight back. From there, I set off to the first stop on this journey, the Druid's Grove. Upon arrival at the gates, a battle broke out. Will didn't make it, and I totally helped. Being ignored by every human in the grove, I was desperate for any form of social interaction. I had a chat with a rat. It asked me to follow it, demanded I assassinate this paralyzed woman, and I obliged, leaving me with a collection of boxes. Walking right past the guards proved no problem, and in the cutscene with Torga, I had only the option to speak with her pet snake. I asked Tila not to hurt this child. The snake's reply was to shut up, leaving me with literally no other option but to watch a child die or die myself. Should be pretty obvious which one I picked. Unsure of how to get experience when I'm too weak to fight and unable to quest, I took to exploring. Not long after, I encountered a burning building with a damsel in distress. Much like Airbud carrying 6 children in basketball, I would do the job of these 6 useless guards. On a nearby corpse, I located the key, found a way into the burning building, and built a ladder out of crates so I could unlock the door, freeing a woman who should have been fully capable of freeing herself. If you actually think about this scenario here, it's like these guys wanted her to die. Venturing to the goblin camp triggered the artifact cutscene, forcing a girl to talk to me. If only it worked that way in real life. This allowed me to finally recruit a companion. Coincidentally, it got me to level 3, so Shadowheart could multiclass into her cat form right away. A second cat meant double the claws, but combat would still require immense strategy. The first encounter I felt comfortable attempting would be the bandits outside of the crypt. Using the boxes that acquired earlier, I built a ladder to reach the rope. These fools couldn't ignore the allure of a cute animal casting meow, and they followed the sound blindly into my trap. Shadowheart's claws sliced through the rope, dropping 500 pounds directly on their skulls. The members of the Zentrim were dumb enough to leave explosives scattered about. After smashing a bottle of wine, the room was set up for a classic cat bomb. I grouped them around their own supply, dashed away, and Shadowheart moved a lit candle to trigger the explosion, eliminating the Zentrim. Without planning for it, their captured slave Oscar had survived. I'd like to imagine him telling his friends back in Baldur's Gate that a cat saved his life. And because I don't like Oscar, hopefully no one believes him. Upon taking our first long rest, Withers showed up at our camp, allowing us to hire some additional feline allies. Even with a full party of cats, goblins are the only thing weak enough for us to kill. My plan was to use the meow ability to lure goblins away from the pack and pick them off one by one. But what I soon discovered is that goblins are still linked to their allies no matter how far away they get. So after a few failures and a lot of reloads, I came up with some new tactics relying heavily on stealth to clear out the goblins' camp, starting with sneakily poisoning the partygoers' beer, picking off solo patrols in the dark corners of the camp, using alcohol to set fires, and of course planting cat bombs when it's cost effective. With a large chunk of the annoying patrols taken care of, I spoke with the goblins' pet spiders. After explaining how delicious a goblin tastes, they agreed to work against their masters. All they asked was I open the door. They made short work of any goblins nearby, while we leached the experience. Further meowing would lure goblins to their imminent deaths. Minthara too could not resist the cat's call, and suffered an unfortunate workplace accident. As for Drar Raglan's gang, they ignored cats setting up explosive charges before their very eyes. An alchemist fire dropped from the ceiling triggered a blast, with the survivors being picked off by my spider allies. The goblins' camp had been purged of all life, but due to my inability to speak, no one would ever know we did anything at all. Opening the passage to the Underdark proved simple, and the ladder scene did not show a cat. I don't know why I expected that it would. Approaching the myconoid colony, I was pleasantly surprised that I was able to speak with them while in cat form. And speaking with this myconoid would offer me the first real quest I've been given this entire playthrough. The conversation was rather ridiculous though. First they size me up, questioning my might, and then decide, yeah, a house cat should be powerful enough for the task, so they ask us to eliminate some nearby dwarves for them. Thinking I had a genius idea, I lured the dwarf invaders to the myconoid colony. colony. But once again, the Meow ability let me down, as they refused to fight each other. Screw you guys. I angrily put their quest on hold in search of gaining experience, because I was somehow still level 3 after 8 hours played. My next plan was to die over and over so I could gather some nearby magical flowers. But the Boulette showed up and decided to tank all the enemies for me until I could gather them, saving me a lot of time. With the magic flowers acquired, I was able to disable the Arcane Tower's defenses, which granted me almost no rewards. My last plan for how to reach level 4 was to lure a Minotaur to the Moonstone, because the game teaches you that this is a mechanic. But it turns out no, that too does not work. Everything in this game is scripted and the whole world is a lie. I'd have totally lost my mind if not for the Boulette killing one of the Minotaur for me. My only option left at this point was Glut, something I'd originally wanted to avoid because his Necromancer spells are pretty overpowered, but at the rate I was going, this challenge might not be over until Baldur's Gate 4's release. And besides, I'm still a cat while I speak to him, so it's not exactly cheating. I destroyed the Moonstone, which blocked my way to a fresh corpse, and allowed Glut to perform his sick ritual. He reanimated the Minotaur and reordered it to slay its former best friend. But Minotaurs kinda suck. What I wanted was the Boulette, and it was already weak from fighting everything else earlier. Together, us cats shredded him, and finally hit level 4, which turns out actually increases Claw's damage. It also granted us the Alert feat, which means I nearly always get to attack first. Glut reanimated our new ally, I force-fed it a half-dozen health pots, and we tested its strength on the nearby wildlife. When a dirty elf intervened, the cat crew snuck in to enact swift justice. From there, it was time to complete what might be the only quest it's possible to get credit for as a cat during Act 1. The Dwarven Slavers must die. Because I've played over 900 hours of this game, I knew exactly where the dwarf leader was invisibly positioned, surprising him with a 5-star frog splash from the top ropes. Rob Van Dam himself would be proud. What I didn't know is that cats only take 1 damage when falling even from massive heights like this, allowing us to join in and overwhelm the enemies. With our quest complete, we said our goodbyes to Glut, claimed our reward, and were given a new hit, True Soul Near, who I fully planned on taking care of. But cats can't operate this boat. I tried. The game would not allow it. Having braved the Underdark, we returned to the surface to wrap up what remaining battles I could. Bears, druids, civilians, murder, just cat things. Even a pack of hyenas was too weak for these 4 house cats. Ready for a change in scenery, we snuck into the mountain pass. Because I was always in an animal form, Raphael had never managed to speak to us, and was waiting for us in our camp. Curiosity got to me, so I attacked him. Realizing he didn't leave, I wanted to know if the old Raphael exploit still works. 36 minutes of attacking him later, it paid off. In the mountain pass, we met a deranged cat lady, who I can only assume wanted to kidnap us. Using a speed potion, we got her before she got us. After enjoying the view, we somehow managed to operate a ski lift, then met a blue jay who asked us to kill an eagle. Instead, I turned it around on him. All birds are enemies of cats. He should have learned that one back in bird school. Approaching the monastery didn't trigger the regular cutscene where this girl dies. Instead, it triggered a battle with her still standing. I had thought that she always dies here, but being too weak to actually do the fight, I was forced to flee the battle, leaving the outcome of that scenario for another day. These Githyanki children showed much more interest in cats than I would have ever expected. They unknowingly prevented any possible sneak attacks, saving countless lives. My cuteness had become a weakness, and after some spying and a study session, it was time to leave. Using a speed potion and a bit of stealth, I was able to get past the undead which blocked the path to the Shadowlands, and enter Act 2, also known as Hell, because when beginning Act 2, I immediately realized a new problem. Cats are not a light source. For about 10 seconds, I considered dragging a lit torch the entire way through the area, but that would have been really stupid. Instead, Shadowheart would need to do the majority of the exploring here, because she is by default immune to the effects of the Shadow Curse. Discovering Last Light brought us to level 5, unlocking Wild Strikes, doubling our attacks per turn. We met another cat that lives in the inn. He refused our invitation to join our camp, stating that he'd rather die. Those words cut deep. Even Isabel would not acknowledge our existence, nor grant us her buffs to survive the Shadow Curse. Out of spite, I stole her moon milk. Without being able to speak to anyone else, the only way forward through the Shadow Curse lands was to kill the Drider for its moon lantern. But I lacked the resources. My explosive supply was tapped, and I can't just buy more like normal. There would only be one place left to acquire more, Grimforge. I made my way to the back door, hoping that this one would be feline accessible. The gamble paid off. Some local spider bros instructed us of a gnome girl they saw run off with WMDs. So we followed her tracks, stole the weapon, and eliminated the witness. After returning to the Shadow Cursed lands, Shadowheart completed her shadow mission, expertly placing explosives. With the bomb planted, she clawed at the rune powder, unleashing a nuclear blast. When the smoke cleared, the Drider still stood, but would die to burn damage soon after. Terrorists win. Withers brought Shadowheart back to life so she could collect the Moon Lantern, and because cats don't have hands, the Moon Lantern can't actually be equipped. Instead, she would have to drag it along the path to Moonrise, until the waypoint was unlocked. And by she, it was actually me. Finally linking up our party. Moonrise ended up being the perfect experience farm. This is the first area where guards are not all linked to each other, so the Meow ability could actually be used to tactically assassinate targets one by one. For a moment, I questioned if this is really cat-like behavior. Are cats really murder hobos? But after speaking with Steelclaw nearby, he reassured me that yes, cats really are psychopaths. The Moonrise grind got us to level 6 and finally unlocked a superior cat form. I thought now the insanity would come to an end, but this panther form still suffers from a lot of the same drawbacks. I can't talk, I can't cast spells, and most importantly right now, I can't carry a moon lantern. If you can't tell by now, that part was the most annoying. Our devilish stalker watched as 4 cats ignored him to enter the Gauntlet of Shar. The elevator scene was a little funnier than usual, and Balthazar's undead had one of the few cutscenes which still spoke to us as animals. They even acknowledged that they can tell I'm not really a cat. But Balthazar's second cutscene totally broke, failed to spawn any enemies like it normally does, and left me with no way to open the door for a meet and greet with Balthy. All that remained was the Gauntlet of Shar. What I soon discovered is that cats can't interact with the sacrificial bowls to spill their own blood, which means it's not possible to get the 3 umbral gems necessary to open the door while you're a cat. I could still acquire 1 gem though. Using stealth, I stole Yurgur's gem to activate the moving platform and reach the door. A smart man would have quit here, maybe even made an exception in the rules. But on this day, I was not a smart man. I spent 3 hours throwing shit at the wall hoping something would stick. Attempts to blow up the door, fling explosives at the lever on the other side, or even toss corpses at the waypoint to unlock it, all failed. But the trusty box tower, the oldest trick in the Proxy book, turned out to be the key. With it, I could climb higher, jump over the door, and even unlock the waypoint. With the pathway opened, we circled back to the library, retrieved the Spear of Night, found cutscenes clearly not intended for cats, and grinded out 2 levels anywhere I could as long as it didn't involve the use of a moon lantern. Because even I'm not that much of a masochist. Reaching level 8 unlocks the Tavern Brawler feat, one of the only feats that actually boost damage as a cat, and the Saber-Tooth Tiger form, a far superior combat cat, with higher health, damage, and armor shredding capabilities. With that, it was finally time to enter to the Shadowfell and confront Balthazar. Intelligent viewers at home may have noticed that this cat on screen is in fact not a saber-toothed tiger. It's actually easier to beat Balthazar as a house cat. Using feline engineering, a trap was set. By drinking an invisibility potion, you can still cast Meow to lure Balthazar to the ledge. Then walk over to the tower, adjust the tower a bit, and an alchemist fire will drop, igniting a nautiloid tank, sending Balthazar flying into space. Shadowheart was then forced out of form for this cutscene where she would kill the Night Song. Cats do not get access to the help action, so the game would have been soft-locked had she not done this. Funnily enough, bears, boars, dogs, and even spiders can gain access to the help action, but not cats, because Larian knows cats never help anyone but themselves. Storming Moonrise was easier than ever, thanks to the Saber-Tooth's bite, and because I cleared most of it out earlier when I wanted to level up. Even Ketherick was left with only his dog at his side. The battle was won with record speeds, but attempts to pursue Ketherick were met with this message.
You cannot use that right now.
Larian did not want this game to be finished by cats. Doing what anyone stuck in a video game does in 2024, I turned to YouTube for help, taking inspiration from the speedrunners. The strategy they used to reach Ketherick is to enter the Mind Flayer colony through the Moonrise prison and jump directly through the wall. I used crates for a bit of extra height because I lacked the spells speedrunners normally use here, and while it took longer than I'd like to admit, eventually the cats were able to glitch through the wall to continue this nightmare. The controls to free the prisoners joined the list of things paws can't operate, as did the Connect the Colors computer and the Futurama talking head device. Somehow the elevator ran smoothly, but then I encountered the flesh rot door. The game does not allow us to click this door because it's supposed to trigger a cutscene. That cutscene will not trigger as a cat. I also tried to jump over this door, and when that didn't work, it was time for plan B. And hear me out for a sec, because this one gets a little weird. First, we gotta murder Shadowheart, then stuff her corpse into a box and light the box on fire. Then we execute a node fling exploit to throw the burning box through the door. The box then burns down and her corpse flops out onto the floor, exactly where the cutscene is supposed to normally trigger. Because of that, we can now enter the room as cats. Since there's no way for me to revive Shadowheart right now as a cat, it's time to 3-cat the boss. This saber-toothed cat form ended up being much stronger than me of the past ever realized, thanks largely to the Tavern Brawler feat, so Ketherick wasn't really that much of a challenge. None of the usual cutscenes triggered here, not even the one where your dream visitor shows up after the battle to give exposition and explain what the hell you're supposed to actually be doing right now. But we don't need story where we're going. Thankfully, the portal did still spawn, and it was fully feline functional. The path to Baldur's Gate was tedious, and at the end of the road, I was happy to never touch this damn moon lantern again. But that joy would be short-lived.
You cannot use that right now.
That message reared its ugly head once again. Only this time, there would be no glitch powerful enough to brute force my way through. For the first time in this entire challenge, I would be forced to manually leave my cat form so I could progress into Act 3. And trust me, if it isn't obvious at this point, if there was another way, I would have done it. Baldur's Gate 3 is not meant to be completed as a cat, but I wanted to see this through. I'm not a quitter, and I was curious what else might break. And you know what they say, curiosity never killed anyone. The Githyanki intermission went smoothly. I reached level 9, and the cutscenes here forced me into a temporary human form. Even the portals were once again fully functional. Like, why the hell does an alien interdimensional portal work properly, but a wide open gate is not clickable? I don't get it. Act 3 is normally the section of the game where you spend a lot of time talking to people, learning major parts of the story, and recruiting allies to aid you in the final fight of the game. With that said, as a cat, I don't think I can do any of that. This little girl, Yenna, is supposed to talk to you upon arrival. She couldn't, so technically, I never met her. The shape-shifting ox from Last Light Inn asked us to smuggle him into the city as an apple, because he claims an ox wandering into the city would be too suspicious. So instead, 4 giant tigers accepted to sneak him in, be it with some terrible looking cutscenes. Gale's cat outright refused to speak with us. Trying to talk to a pig angered everyone nearby, and attacking Orin was just one more broken cutscene to add to the list. Attempting to walk into the city past the guards triggered a different cutscene than usual, where the narrator explained that the guards don't want me here. Normally the guards would tell you that themselves. Trying to walk past them further agitated the guards. Perhaps that ox was right when he said that animals can't just walk into the city. The second set of guards ignored me entirely, but the long jump of the tiger proved an effective alternative to entering the keep. Inside the keep, Gortash was able to force me out of my form so he could speak to me as a human, offering his usual alliance. Having heard rumors of our handiwork in the goblin camp, we were given the task to assassinate Orin. We set off to track her down. Preventing a murder got us to level 10 and unlocked the extra attack, allowing 3 bites per turn. Killing this man also gave us the secret password for the door to the Tombstone shop, but unfortunately because we can't speak, the cutscene doesn't seem to trigger. Inside that room is where you would normally obtain the key necessary to meet Orin, but at the time I was confident I had a way around this. With that, I was off to the sewers. Orin couldn't chat with us as animals, so she stood around pretending to be a girl that we'd never even met. Her nearby Nightblade assassins demonstrated stormtrooper levels of accuracy, and after a quick river raft, I confirmed draining my own blood could open the first temple door without issue. Upon reaching the second door is when I learned that Larian has patched out the method that I previously used to get through this door without the key. You can no longer glitch through without using spells. Turns out when you post videos showcasing bugs, and a company actually cares, they fix them. Being primarily a Blizzard gamer for the last 10 years prior to this, I had no idea. I spent a couple hours trying to jump over the door, but to no avail. Only way forward was to return to the Tombstone shop and manually leave my cat form once again to activate the cutscene. Choosing violence, we fought our way through the guards, were declared interlopers, and defeated Orin's grandfather/father for the key to her bedroom. On the way to Orin, we chatted with a few locals, visited Skittle, the only merchant available to cats, and observed a rather offensive magic show. Orin's door required human form once more to open, and while battling her, the camera got bugged out for 2 rounds, and it was stuck showing a weird camera angle, and that was the most interesting part of that fight. We returned to Gortash with the good news. He forced us back into human form, where for once in a challenge run, I was happy to ally with this handsome young man. A quick level up, and restock on supplies, before we headed off to meet Gortash and confront the Elder Brain. I fully expected this boat to say that I can't use it when I clicked on it as a cat, but it worked just fine. We approached the Nether Brain, met Gortash, and before we even got the chance to speak with him, his mind imploded. Every attack we issued against the brain failed, and the Emperor took us back to the astral plane. Knowing cats cannot use netherstones, we handed them to the Emperor and returned to Baldur's Gate. It was here where I witnessed the most cursed cutscene of the entire run thus far. It was a beautiful thing, and it made every bit of suffering up until this point worth it. The final meeting with our recruited allies was lonely. Just the ox from earlier showed up, but in cat form, we were still able to give our speech. It was moments like this that I was hoping I would have seen more of throughout this playthrough. Because I haven't been able to do much shopping, my invisibility potion supply was extremely low, so this time I wanted to fight through most of the enemies instead of cheesing this entire section of the game. Rather than take on the regular battle in the courtyard, I used the fairly secret Upper City Sewers entrance. This sewer area has a unique Death Knight mini-boss, and this route is overall a much easier way to the brain compared to the courtyard battle. Opening the secret door back here allowed us to start the gauntlet, and using the enhanced jump of the tiger, we cleared the gauntlet in just a few turns. The party made sure to drink the few invisibility potions that I'd been able to acquire as a cat and then ascend the brain. This cutscene cutscene was a little weird this time because it didn't show my allies climbing, and when I got to the top, it didn't show the enemies spawning like it normally does. It looks like while ascending the brain while shapeshifted, it bugs out and doesn't spawn the 4 creatures that are normally here. Not that I really intended to fight them anyways. As a group, we snuck past everything directly to the crown. The Emperor opened a portal to the brain for the cats to enter, and together we shredded it apart in just 2 turns. Our Mind Flayer friend had completed his lifelong goal of destroying the Nether Brain, and us cats had saved Baldur's Gate. But as for the challenge, it turned out the difficulty was not in boss fights, not even the lack of equipment or the inability to converse with others, but indoors. You cannot beat Baldur's Gate 3 fully as a cat, but I came as close as you'll ever see. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and try to check out some of the other challenge videos I've done on this channel. And as always, thanks for watching. Proxy out.